Why, hello everybody, how are you doing today? Hope you're enjoying your week. Now, before we get started, I gotta address a couple of things, okay? There were some things that people were having a problem with in my video, okay? Oh shit, I really do sound like Mr. Mackey sometimes. Ugh, that's upsetting. When I made part 1 of this series, I got a lot of complaints of people saying that it's not a rip-off, it's an inspiration. You shouldn't call the video rip-off. I know, but what the hell am I supposed to call the video? Would these inspirations survive the inspired? I sound like a fucking fruit. Somebody who drinks out of glasses with their pinky up and shit. Rip-off and original just makes for a catchier title, so that's what I go with. It's shorthand, motherfucker. If you got your asshole all up in a tizzy about it, do yourself a favor and pull the stick out of it. It's not that serious. Come on now, people, we're all adults here. Actually, we're not. There's a lot of children that watch these videos, so there's some pretty bad parenting going on out there. Shame on y'all. I say the fuck word a lot. But that's enough wasting your time. Let's get started. So first up, we have Altair from the original Assassin's Creed game versus the Prince from the Prince of Persia. And already I can kind of tell that people are going to be a bit confused about why I'm saying Altair is a ripoff of the Prince. He's not really a ripoff, he's kind of the Prince himself. If you know anything about the history of the creation of the Assassin's Creed games, the original Assassin's Creed was not originally supposed to be an Assassin's Creed game. It was supposed to be a sequel to Prince of Persia called Prince of Persia Assassins. Altair was literally supposed to be the Prince. Halfway through production, after they had already written the story and had a lot of the assets made, Ubisoft realized that the game was so different from Prince of Persia that they would just make it an entirely new IP. This is why there's so many similarities between the character of Altair and the Prince. Neither of them really have that much of a personality, but they both have the exact same fighting style and gameplay, as well as they could both use parkour and things like this. They do have similarities among the two. So, do I think that he's a ripoff? I mean, can you call a guy a ripoff when he was originally made to literally be the guy you're calling him a ripoff of? I don't think so. Basically, the last half of production for this game was just throwing in a bunch of stuff to make it different from Prince of Persia. So, for the purposes of this video, I'm counting them. So who is Altair? Well, Altair was a member of this assassin order, and he was the youngest man to ever have become a master assassin. He was like 24 years old, and this was like a super impressive thing. On his very first assignment as a master assassin, he fucked up big time. He had a lot of people killed, a lot of shit went down. It was bad. So he was stripped of all of his titles and essentially brought back down to a novice to start all over again. He was then given an assignment that he had to go out and kill a bunch of people as a sort of redemption for his massive failure. So he did. He went out and he started killing all, I think it was like 9 different people that he had to go out and assassinate. But after he completed his goal and killed all these people, he realized that the assassin order that he was working for was actually super corrupt. What a fucking shock that must have been. The secret society that kills people for a living has a little bit of corruption in it. What a crazy fucking concept that is. Anyway, then the whole game shifts and he ends up going after his own organization and trying to kill the corrupt leader. He does it, he takes over the fucking organization and then leads it into a better future, blah blah, and eventually fights against Genghis Khan? Man, these games are fucking weird. Assassin's Creed has been around long enough for everybody to know exactly what the whole deal is. I mean, Altair basically has all the same skills and abilities that every other Assassin's Creed character has. He is a master assassin, he's a master swordsman, he's got the little fucking stealth blade bitch that he stabs people in the neck with. The only real difference between him and everybody else is that he also acquires this object called the Apple of Eden, which might be an alien artifact, might be magical, might be scientific. It's really kind of made unclear, at least as far as the early games are concerned. And it gives him all kinds of crazy powers, like he can duplicate himself, he can see into the future, he can control people's mind, he can create illusions. It just gives him a very large variety of bullshit powers that completely breaks the game and makes it not historical at all. So I don't understand why people are constantly complaining that these games are not historically accurate. Like, the dude literally gets an alien god artifact that gives him superpowers. This shit was never fucking historically accurate. So now moving on to the other side of the Prince, what's his whole deal? Well, the Prince is he's a prince. I don't know why he doesn't have a name. It's not that hard to come up with a name. It's not like this game is an RPG where you choose what happens. Like, it has a story and he has a voice actor, so just give him a fucking name. Like, you spent all this time making a game, just finish it and give your main character a whatever. It's fine. It's a pet peeve. It's okay. So the Prince originally is an arrogant and brash kind of little douchebag, sort of like a frat boy, but in like ancient Persia. And he is super on board with killing lots of people to prove to his father that he's a great, amazing warrior. And he is. He's pretty good. But But because of his brashness, he ends up going off and releasing the Sands of Time, which basically fucks the whole kingdom and releases a bunch of crazy sand monster things all over the place. And then he gets shamed by the whole kingdom and then has to go and basically redeem himself by stopping the Sands of Time and using his crazy time dagger powers in order. Do you see the similarities, right, between these two games? How they're kind of the same thing, you know? A young, very skilled person goes and fucks up and then has to redeem themselves by accomplishing some sort of, like, you get it, right? You understand? And then they both find out that the person who caused all the problems was somebody who actually worked for their organization. Like, the villain of Prince of Persia is actually someone who works for the king in the game. Like, they're very similar stories. I'm not just making this shit up, guys. Like, come on, there's a thing, there's something here. Anyway, the prince eventually gets all kinds of different items and crazy powers. He has the ability to control all elements, but nobody gives a shit about that. Everybody knows what the main thing the prince is, and that's time control. He can freeze time, he can back up time, he can see into the future. He's got crazy, awesome time powers. Like, I'm not gonna have a fight between the prince and somebody else, and he's gonna kill him with a fucking, like, water attack. Obviously, it's gonna come down to the time shit. That's what everybody's here for. So who would win in a fight between these two surprisingly similar characters? Well, it sort of comes down to who does what first. If you look at Altair, he has way more powers than the prince does. He's got a lot of shit. Like, at one point in the games, Altair makes a guy pull his own sword out and slit his throat with his mind control in illusions, and they don't know what the fuck's going on or what's happening. He can cause instant death to anyone around him. He has a lot of cool powers that the prince can't possibly deal with. So in a fight between the prince and Altair, Altair really should win. The only problem is it doesn't matter if he fucking wins. When the prince dies, it's not over. Time rewinds itself back to a point before he was dead, and he gets a second chance to do whatever it was he was doing. So even if the fight does start and Altair instantly uses his death shit on him and then just makes him drop dead right there, that's not it. The prince gets right back up, boop, freezes time, shanks the fuck out of Altair, and he wins. Because unlike the prince, Altair doesn't have a way of coming back from the dead once it happens. Now, Altair does have the power to look into the future and see what will happen next, but what future will he be looking into? In the Assassin's Creed game, there's only one timeline. It just sort of goes down its own little path, and Altair just reacts to what that initial timeline's going to do. In the Prince of Persia, it works totally different. I mean, the prince's understanding of how the timelines work is significantly better than what Altair has. The prince doesn't view time as just a regular stream. He views it as just this massive storm of all sorts of craziness that cannot be predicted or understood, and he's gotten pretty good at navigating that storm. While they can both look into the future and see what would happen, the prince's ability to do that and see the different outcomes and then react to them accordingly is significantly better than someone like Altair's. Altair isn't even aware that there are multiple timelines and possibilities. He can't be. He has no power over it other than just what he does right now in the present. Are you guys kind of getting what I'm saying here? Like, I get time conversations are fucking convoluted and confusing. So I'm not 100% sure if people are getting what I'm putting down. I'm just gonna keep talking, and I'm just gonna hope that you guys are riding this wave with me. Honestly, when it comes down to it, it's very simple. The prince can just freeze time, run up and stab him. Like, Altair, with all his crazy powers, has absolutely no defense for that. Even if he does end up controlling the dude before he has a chance to freeze time that first time, prince is gonna have multiple chances to actually do it. So yeah, Altair can't really do much here. Prince wins. Next up, we got Duke Nukem from the Duke Nukem series and Serious Sam from the Serious Sam. Do I have to say the title of the series if it's the exact same as the character's name? I feel like that's kind of stupid. I'm not doing that anymore after this time. I'm not doing that no more. So this is another one that might actually kind of confuse you, because if you play these games, you know they are both Doom clones. They were both made and inspired by Doom. They're boomer shooters, and they're just two of many different games that came out after the release of Doom that was clearly trying to be Doom. So you might think that they're not actually ripoffs of each other, they're more so ripoffs of Doom. I kind of have some arguments against that. Duke Nukem is absolutely a straight up Doom clone that was trying really hard to be Doom, but then gave this more comedic spin to it, right? Doom is not a funny game. The original Dooms, the main character doesn't talk or anything. He's just a guy who runs around and shoots demons. It's supposed to be badass, not funny or humorous. Duke Nukem Nukem came out and had a lot of the same gameplay mechanics, but it had this sort of funny shift where the main character, Duke Nukem, was this ridiculous, over-the-top badass to an insane degree, and he was kind of a parody of 1980s action heroes. When Serious Sam came out 10 years after Duke Nukem, it did have that same Doom-like gameplay, just like Duke Nukem did, but it had a lot more in common with Duke Nukem in terms of its main character and its story than it did with Doom. For instance, both Duke Nukem and Serious Sam fight against aliens, not demons, and they both have this goofy, over-the-top, funny personality, and they're both parodies of action heroes from the 1980s and 1990s. So while, yes, they are both Doom clones, I think it's pretty easy to argue that Serious Sam had a lot more inspiration from Duke Nukem than it did from Doom itself. So that is why it is on the list. And as for talking about who these characters are, there's really not that much to say, to be honest with you. I mean, both characters come from games where aliens come down to invade the Earth, and then them, with just their amazing badassery, get all their shit together and go fight the oncoming threat. They're not really particularly deep characters. The major difference between the two in terms of story and character is that Duke Nukem is kind of shown to be an arrogant asshole. Like, Duke Nukem is very aware of how amazing he is and wants everyone around him to know it, and his personality generally annoys everyone that he comes into contact with. That's a part of his character, and it's a reason why a lot of people really like him, because he's funny. He's kind of like Johnny Bravo in a way, but like an action hero version of Johnny Bravo. But sadly, if you're going to write a character like that, you need to be very careful, because if you're not, you end up having Duke Nukem Forever, where he's not sort of annoying in a funny way, he's just straight up annoying. And that's basically what has caused his games to die out. Serious Sam is not meant to be annoying. Just like Duke Nukem, he is a parody of action heroes from the 80s and 90s. However, he's more of a traditional parody. You can even almost see Sam as more of a parody of sort of American culture than just action heroes. He loves explosions and action and killing things, and everything's badass, and it doesn't matter what happens around him. Him and all of his friends just love blowing shit up and being super fucking American. It's a whole different vibe from Duke Nukem that kind of pokes fun of those action heroes in a sort of mocking kind of way, like a playful mocking way, but still a mocking kind of way. And Serious Sam's character more so celebrates it, and they don't really care to mock it. They actually legitimately love this kind of goofy, over-the-top shit. So what can these characters actually do? Well, Duke Nukem is a physically superior character to any general normal human. He's capable of ripping off heads with his bare hands and punching through concrete walls, and he's just a big, muscly, tough guy with a bunch of really awesome guns. The thing that was really cool about the Duke Nukem games is that guns had all sorts of different effects that things in Doom just didn't have. For instance, you have things like a shrink ray in Duke Nukem. It came out in a time where people were trying to do more interesting things with their weapons other than just shooting bullets and hitting them with said bullets. You're not just blowing people up. You're affecting people in very interesting ways. And this is the thing that's going to make Duke Nukem so dangerous in this fight with Sam, because a lot of Duke's guns, unlike normal guns that are just, guns, they actually are hacks. They get around physical durability and sometimes even speed and do crazy shit that it doesn't matter how strong you are. You can't really avoid these types of attacks. Now, if you go over to the flip side to someone like Sam, he doesn't have nearly as many hacksy abilities, but he is physically so much more powerful. Duke Nukem might be like a low-tier Captain America, right? Sam is basically like movie Hulk, maybe? Like, he is significantly more powerful. The dude runs around with like old school Revolutionary War cannons, just holding one in each hand, and just fires fucking cannonballs out, just running around at top speed. How much does a fucking Revolutionary War cannon weigh? I don't know, but I can tell you this thing, Duke Nukem ain't fucking picking it up. And Sam picks up 2 of these bitches. Sam's guns are basically the exact opposite of Duke Nukem's, where they don't do interesting, unique shit to people. They're just really fucking big and overpowered. He blasts UFOs out of the sky and massive mechs. The creatures that he fights are the size of skyscrapers, and his guns are just these insanely destructive weapons of mass destruction, basically. They're huge. No normal man could fire these weapons, and he's running around at top speeds holding one in each arm. Now, he does have some weapons that are kind of hacksy, like, he's got the, He only has one. He's got the black hole gun. That's about it. He does have a gun called the eraser gun, but it doesn't literally erase people. It just sort of atomizes the fuck out of them, and only really does that to very, very weak beings. If you're a bit of a tougher dude, it doesn't do that. It takes a while to actually do that. So it's not really that hacksy. His only real hacks ability is the black hole gun. And he doesn't really have that much ammo with it. So he might fire it once, maybe, if his main guns don't work. But for the most part, his shit is all about mass destruction, especially considering that his character adores explosions and destruction and brutalization of his enemies. So he might actually just avoid using the black hole gun for, you know, funsies. So who wins in a fight between these two American legends of gaming? Does the physically superior Sam with vastly more powerful weaponry, who is faster, stronger, and just generally more of a beast than Duke, win? Or does Duke win, who's got guns that just do more interesting shit to its enemies and can kind of completely avoid even dealing with Sam's superior durability? I'll be honest with you, I think Sam is still winning this one. While it's true that Duke Nukem's abilities do have like hacksy-like abilities, it's not like Sam's world doesn't have that. I mean, they do have magic in their world, and some of his enemies do have the ability to do some crazy magical type shit. But honestly, even if that wasn't the case and Duke were to use his hacksy weapons on Sam, and he's never seen anything like that, a lot of his hacksy weapons really wouldn't work the same way. Like, if we do talk about his shrink ray, for instance, you can actually use his shrink ray in two ways. You can shrink them down to very, very small, to the size of like a tiny animal, or you can make them grow so big that they can't hold their own weight and they collapse. If you make Sam grow to the point that he'll collapse, I mean, I don't think he's going to collapse. He is physically superior to beings that are 10, 20 times stronger than he is. Duke might actually be shocked to shit when he uses the growth ray and he realizes he just made Sam significantly more powerful. On the flip side, if he uses the shrink ray and makes him like a little animal thing, Sam's weapons are strong enough that they can destroy whole fucking UFOs that are significantly larger than himself. I don't think making him that small is going to make him any less dangerous. You certainly made his weapons weaker, but I don't think you made them weak enough that they're not going to hurt you now. If he's capable of blowing up giants that are the size of skyscrapers with his regular handheld weapons, what makes you think that because he's the size of a raccoon now that he won't blow your ass into little pieces anyway? And this is kind of the way it works for a lot of Duke Nukem weapons. While it's true they do count as hacks, most of them are not like instant kill type weapons. And his other weapons that aren't instant kill type weapons, that are normal guns, like for instance, he has a gun that shoots out acid, he has an electricity gun, I think he has a lava gun. I honestly think Sam could probably tank a lot of that shit. But the fact of the matter is that Duke can't tank a single shot from pretty much any of Sam's weapons. None of them. Like I said, his weakest weapon can take out giant UFOs that travel throughout all of space at light speed and enter the fucking atmosphere. Duke's just not that powerful. So yeah, as much as Duke Nukem tickles my balls, Sam wins here. Next up, we have Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series versus Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. I don't have to explain to you why Nathan Drake is clearly a ripoff of Lara Croft, do I? That's not something I have to do. I gotta do this shit. Okay, so if you've only played the new Tomb Raider games, you might not see that much resemblance between these two characters, but if you've played the older ones, specifically the original Tomb Raider, which is the version of Lara that I'm going to be using because that's the version that Nathan is based off of, they're very, very similar characters. The whole Lara being an archaeologist kind of thing is really something that was introduced in the newer games. The older games, it was an aspect. Like, she would go and sit in Oxford classes and listen to archaeological lectures, but it was really just to help with her treasure hunting. I mean, her main thing was that she was a rich aristocrat who kind of got bored with her day-to-day life and wanted to go treasure hunting because it was a thrill, it was exciting. She's a daredevil type of character, which is very much the same reason why Drake does his treasure hunts. They both have this very dry, sort of witty humor about them, and they're kind of very lighthearted. And the reason why they have this lightheartedness is because they both have these really tragic backstories. They are extremely similar characters. When you really look at it, there's only two main differences between this character, and that is, one, Nathan Drake does do it for the money. Lara doesn't really need money. And two, I don't really want to fuck Nathan Drake. Outside of that, they are basically the same character, which is why it makes sense that people keep pitting these two up against each other. And pretty much every single time someone pits these two up against each other, it's always the same shit. Lara wins because she fought a T-Rex. What a stupid... Look, If you put Drake up against a T-Rex, he'll probably win. He's got a rocket launcher. I think you can kill a T-Rex with a rocket launcher. Just because he didn't fight a T-Rex does not mean that he wouldn't win to a T-Rex. In terms of things like physical stats, they're basically the same. They're both parkour experts and climbing experts. They both have the basic normal type of gun-like arsenal with rocket launchers and pistols and machine guns and shotguns and all that same shit. And they both get into massive shootouts with a bunch of other people and fight different types of weird supernatural beings. They're very, very similar. The reason why Lara wins here is not because she defeated a T-Rex. It's because the artifacts that she acquires has way better powers than anything Nathan has. Nathan has found a lot of cool, crazy supernatural artifacts. Artifacts that allow him to teleport, artifacts that allow him to slow all people in his vicinity, so he's basically like slight, maybe time control. I'm not really sure if it's time control. He slows people down. And all this different stuff that he has is really, really impressive. It's really cool shit. Doesn't even begin to touch anything that Lara has, though. Not even close. I mean, Lara can summon demons from the underworld and then control those demons with 2 different artifacts. She has the Philosopher's Stone that allows her to turn anything into any other thing. She can turn Nathan into a fucking chair if she wants to. And she can do a lot of the same stuff that Nathan could do. She can't do the slow down, maybe time control, maybe not time control thing, but she can teleport. She can use electricity as a weapon. She can curse people. She has all sorts of different artifacts. And I think a lot of this is because she has a much longer running series than he does. Generally speaking, in the Uncharted games, you spend the whole game to acquire one really cool artifact. And in Tomb Raider games, which there are also more of, you might acquire 5, 6, 7 artifacts in a single game with all sorts of kind of powers, and you get to use them freely throughout the entire games. This means that throughout her series, she's gotten all sorts of crazy magical abilities that Nathan just can't possibly have. When it really comes down to it, Nathan is like an action movie hero, kind of like a Indiana Jones or a what's his name? O'Donnell from the Mummy franchise. But Lara Croft is a video game character. She's not trying to be a movie character. And her skills and abilities and magics and items and all that different kind of shit feel like crazy over-the-top video game-like powers. And that is why she wins. Not because she shot a T-Rex in the face. Give me an RPG, I'll kill a fucking T-Rex. It's a fucking RPG, guys. That's what they do. They kill fucking T-Rexes. Last up, but certainly not least, we have the Playa from Saints Row franchise versus the entire Grand Theft Auto universe. There's no point in me even hiding it. The Playa is absolutely destroying this entire universe. He's going through every single protagonist, side character, and every single NPC that exists like a fucking train through tissue paper, like a Catholic priest through the altar boy lineup, like my dick in your mom's ass. He is going through it like it doesn't even fucking exist. Throughout the course of this game, you can take out every single enemy type out of the game and replace them with a GTA protagonist, and it wouldn't change a damn bit of how this story plays out. The Playa, who eventually gets his name changed to the Boss as the games go on, because he literally becomes the president of the United States and takes over basically everything, starts off as a regular asshole bullshit dude who's just walking down the street, and then he joins a gang called the Saints. Just a regular street gang, nothing too special about them. There's some guys with guns and they fight other gangs with guns. It's pretty simple. By the second game, this regular asshole that's just walking down the street ends up being like, for some reason, just the biggest beast ever and takes over the whole goddamn city, including taking on this massive corporation. Can you imagine if like we heard on the news tomorrow that the Bloods took out Jeff Bezos and completely toppled Amazon? Wouldn't that be some crazy shit to hear happen? That happens in this game, basically. After that, aliens invade the planet, and then he goes into some kind of weird alternate cyber world where he gets a bunch of superpowers like super speed. He can jump over skyscrapers and shit. He can fly, he can shoot fire, and then he gets a bunch of crazy guns and have all sorts of other sci-fi powers and shit, including the infamous giant pink dildo that you could smack people several city blocks away from where you're currently standing. And then you continue even past that in Saints Row 4, and the fucking planet blows up, and you're the only person still alive. You and a couple of other people in this robot that you like to stick your dick in sometimes. And it's just like what the fuck happened with these games? Look, I get it. When the game first came out, people said that you were a Grand Theft Auto clone, and it's true. For the most part, you were. You had differences, but you were. But Saints Row 2 was so fucking amazing. At the time Saints Row 2 came out, it was like my favorite crime game. I liked it better than any of the current GTA games that were out at the time. That includes San Andreas, which was peak PS2 era, guys. And then you decide to lose your goddamn minds and do all this other weird shit. It's not even a crime series anymore. It just gets fucking ridiculous. Honestly, I stopped playing these games after like 3. Like, I just couldn't do it anymore. It was too stupid. Not that I have a problem with a game being stupid. It's just I was following the story for 2 games straight of it not being stupid, and then it all of a sudden became stupid midway through the fucking story. That's the part that really bothered me. There was no longer any logical consistency, and considering that 2 was so fucking amazing, I was really hoping that 3 would up the ante. But instead of just driving down that straight road to excellence, they decided to cock a left-hand turn where they weren't fucking supposed to and drove through 6 fucking houses. Bro, there's families that live there. You killed children. Comparatively to just how much these games lost their fucking minds, when you go over to GTA, people were annoyed with GTA 5 because they thought GTA got a little silly compared to the previous games. They really liked the serious tone of GTA 4, and 5 just clearly went into a more Saints Row-ish type direction. Not quite that much. It was still, you could still take it somewhat seriously, but even that annoyed people. I mean, if you really look at the entire GTA franchise, what can they do? There isn't a single gun that exists within the GTA universe that doesn't exist in real life. And even if those guns are slightly stronger in the GTA universe, because generally games don't care about how strong real world guns are and making them equivalent strength in video games, what can they do against somebody like the boss? I mean, his right-hand man, Gat, dies, goes to hell, gets a bunch of crazy 7 deadly sin, like, magical guns, fights against the devil himself, and then starts fucking the devil's daughter. Like, this is the type of games we're talking about. Again, the first game was just a regular crime game. You're just a dude with a gun doing normal shit. What happened? Why? Okay, so to be fair, I'm not saying there's no entertainment value in Saints Row 3 and 4. They're fun games. They are. It's just such a big culture shock. I would really enjoy Saints Row 3 and 4 if it was a new IP of just goofy, crazy shit. Maybe even a spin-off of the Saints Row series. But the fact that this is supposed to be one continuous story from Saints 1 to Saints 4, and it goes this off the rails just halfway through, I don't know. I couldn't. Sometimes that could work. Like, I thought it worked really well from Dusk Till Dawn, when it just randomly loses its fucking mind in the middle of the movie. But for Saints Row, it just didn't do it for me. But for the purposes of this video, yeah, no, you could take the boss, you could take Gat, you could basically take any character from the Saints Row, at least the ones that survived by the end of the series, and you could put them up against the entire GTA universe, and they absolutely bundlefuck the entire universe. Bundlefuck. Did I make that up? I think I heard that somewhere. Fuck it, I'm going with it. They bundlefucked it. And go ahead, GTA 5 players. Tell me how Trevor, with his fucking little rampage side missions that don't really happen, is going to wipe out the boss. Go ahead. Tell me. There's always one. There's always one fucking comment that has to say that. Go ahead. Watch as you get ripped the fucking part in the comments by the Saints Row fans. You're gonna be fucked worse than an altar boy on Sunday morning. But that's gonna be all from me. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember, if you join the membership, you get videos early. And we'll, like, I don't know, give you a free altar boy or something. Have fun, you fucking pervs. And always remember, y'all stay safe out there, you hear?